I'm running late. By the time I walk into the sanctuary, there are very few seats left. As I stand at the back of the room looking for a place to sit, I see her. She gets up from a pew and walks down the aisle to join a few more people in front of the altar. Her back is to me. She has on a form-fitting black dress. Not so form-fitting that the saints would call her Jezebel. It shows off her very full bottom. As usual, I become mesmerized by the cadence of her walk and the way the hem of the dress flirts around the back of her knees. I quickly assessed the direction she came from and noticed there was enough room for me on the pew. In front of the pew where she got up, she left her purse and a large piece of material in her seat next to her friend, who is a pretty petite lady with a bald head. I slide into the pew. I turn and smile at her friend. I settle in the pew, keeping the end seat on the aisle. Some old lady taps me on my shoulder and glares at me. She motions for me to slide over. She wants my seat. I get up and stand in the aisle, my 6'4" frame towering over this old lady. I motion for her to go into the inside of the pew, hoping she'll get the picture that today I need the aisle seat. She obliged, but not before she mumbles "motherfucker" at me under her breath. I now turn my attention back to her and that damn black dress. I don't see her. She's not at the front near the altar anymore. I'm hoping she didn't disappear into the abyss of the back for the rest of service. A few minutes later, she reappears, and I let out an audible sigh of relief. I straighten my tie and watch her come up the aisle to claim her seat, like I have so many Sundays before. She is sexy as shit. She sports a blonde tapered cut. Not that white girl blonde black women like to wear that makes them look like a circus act. This blonde plays off her caramel complexion. She moves like I envision Aphrodite did walking up to the seashell for her portrait. She has big brown eyes and a pair of full lips and hips that make men blush. I noticed today that she's wearing red lipstick. I love when she wears red lipstick. It's hard to explain why that color on her. Plenty of women wear red lipstick, but not like her. On her, it's like a siren. When you hear a siren, you stop in your tracks and you're confused for a little bit. You need to assess the situation and figure out how to proceed. I lose it every time she wears it. I want that red lipstick on my collar. As she gets closer to me, I stand in the aisle to block her from going to the row behind me, where her friend and her belongings are. Nervously, I say, "Please, sit with me." She looks up at me with those mesmerizing eyes and smiles a big, beautiful ruby red, toothy smile with no traces of red lipstick on her teeth. With hesitation, she obliges. The congregation is on their feet for the opening of the doors of the church. I smell her perfume as she scoots in. I am so excited. I thank the Lord for skin. She begins to settle in. Retrieving her things from the row behind her, her friend leans forward to pass her things and whispers in her ear. Her poise and grace lends to her not to give away what her friend said to her. I can tell it was something because as she turns back to the front, her smile is wide and the slight dimple in her left cheek is prominent. The choir is gearing up for the congregational hymn, and she cannot locate her program where the words of the hymn are printed. I offer to share my program. My hands are shaking so bad, I think some of the words landed on the floor. She moves closer to me as she takes one side of the program. We begin singing. She has a beautiful, calming voice. I begin to imagine her singing our babies to sleep. I catch myself drifting, and I have to man up quickly. I clear my throat and straighten my tie as we sit down to enjoy service. She sits just close enough for me to touch her. I resist the urge to accidentally brush against her. I look at her hands and notice her long, willowy fingers sans nail polish. Her legs are out in front of her, crossed at the ankle, giving me a peek at her healthy thighs. Her feet are tapping against each other, signaling that she's nervous as well. She must have caught me looking because she cleared her throat, straightened her dress, and tucked her legs under the pew. It didn't matter where her legs were, those thighs ain't going nowhere. I've dreamt about this day for several months. Ever since that day I first walked into the church. I was coming in the door. Her back was to me. She was fussing with something on the table. She suddenly turned around to face me. I noticed her red lipstick then and heard sirens. She looked up at me, smiled, and batted those big brown eyes. Her smile infected me. My temperature shot up and I got all sweaty and lightheaded. She looked at me as if I were the only man in the room and said, "I'm glad you're here." Hell, at that point, I was glad to be standing upright. I later learned she was a greeter, and she probably made everyone feel like that, but I couldn't shake that feeling. It would be a month before I would see her again. My job takes me away from the city a few times a year for weeks at a time. I would come back to the church when I could, and I would look for her and to enjoy the service, of course. When I didn't see her, I would be out of sorts until I saw her again. I didn't even know her name. What I did know would have to keep me going until I saw her again. It's time to greet the guests and each other. We stand up, I turn to her and introduce myself, and thank her for not turning down my invitation to sit with me. She starts flirting with her eyes and introduces herself. Now I have a name. Right as I'm getting ready to ask her a question, someone calls her name, and she turns around and hugs and greets them and a few other people just before it's time to take our seats again. Later, I find myself helping the pastor preach because I want him to shut up and sit down so I can talk to this beautifully and wonderfully made woman sitting beside me. As service closes, we are directed to stand and hold our neighbor's hand for the benediction. I'm about to lose all my cool points. She places her soft hand inside mine and applies gentle pressure, as if she's letting me know that she's present. She doesn't let go through the threefold amen. The whole time I'm trying to convince myself to keep following through with my plan. Don't muck it up and don't drop the ball. Don't drop the ball. After the final blessing, she lets go. I quickly grab her attention because I know her girlfriend is chomping at the bit, but I need her focus to be on me. I look down at her and I ask, "Are you free to go grab a bite to eat right now?" She's flirting with those eyes again. She replies, "No." She pauses and then says, "But you can walk me to my car. I'll meet you in the vestibule in a few minutes." I agree. She turns to her girlfriend, says a few words, then disappears to the abyss of the back. I go to the vestibule to lick my wounds and pull myself together. What was I thinking? Asking her out like that on such short notice? Wait! She didn't totally kick me to the curb, right? I should be happy to get whatever time she would grant me, right? Right! All is not lost. Still, I feel a little deflated. A few moments later, her girlfriend passes me in the vestibule and says, "She's coming," smiles and gives me a wink and finishes on her way out of the door. "You've got this." A few minutes later, she appears in the vestibule. I open the door for her. Once outside, I offer her my arm. She happily takes it and offers, "I'm glad chivalry didn't die today." We chuckle. On the way to her car, she offers an apology for sounding abrupt earlier and let me know that she's open to making future plans. I tell her that would be very nice and I look forward to it. Once at her car, she asked me for my cell phone. She saw the confused look on my face and offered, "I'm not going to check your messages. Just open your new contacts." I hand her my cell phone. She types for a few seconds, then hands me my phone back. "It's on you," she declares. She motions for a hug. She didn't give me the church hug I was expecting. She gave me a full body hug. The kind where she had to reach up and put her arms around my neck, pulling me to her. I had to wrap my arms around the fullness of her waist to keep from falling on top of her to the ground. Man, she felt good. I had to stop myself from molesting her right there in the church parking lot and possibly catching a case. This lady was intriguing me with every passing moment. The passion in that hug alone made me forget she just turned me down for lunch, but she was giving me hope for dinner. She gets in her car, cranks up, and drives off. She leaves me on the curb trying to catch my breath. I trot to my car grinning like a Cheshire cat. I get in and pull down the visor to give myself a high five and a pep talk in the mirror. As I am looking at myself in the mirror, I notice I have her red lipstick on my collar.